clock got 7 o'clock, so we'll call this meeting to order. And first order of business is adoption of the meeting agenda.
So moved. Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes were emailed out, and which I hope nobody needs a copy because I left them all on the printer except the one that I'd already put in my folder. But we'll entertain a motion to approve those as they were emailed.
Motion to approve as emails. Second.
All right, any discussion changes? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Public input.
I have a question which may be answered in the course of Lead Edge's discussion, so I'll ask it now and you guys can answer it if able whenever. A couple of meetings ago, Mr. Everly had mentioned a bid for a project to take care of the failing ramp area in front of the Joe aircraft hangar. Is there a status on that and a time frame yet?
No, and I'll let Phil talk about that when Phil gives his report.
Very good, sir. Thank you. That's all I have.
Anybody else? All right. Committee and authority member reports.
On the financial side, the information was emailed out earlier today. I forwarded that via email to the group. We're 42% through the year. If you look through the budget, you'll find, I think, that we're pretty close to that on most of the areas. There are a couple of areas that we're over. Professional services, things that weren't budgeted there. Equipment rental, had some equipment rentals there, and Randy, you can probably elaborate, or Alexis can elaborate on what that charge was. And then there were a couple of other small things, but when you look at the overall budget, we're currently at 45% on a 42% budget today. So we're very close within line with where we should be. Part of the additional cost there is in fuel as well. So, any questions, concerns? Thank you. On a side note to that, I'll talk a little bit, well, I won't be, or when you bring it up on the Saturday event. So, that's not really a committee report.
All right, we will show under that, we'll show the treasurer's report as reviewed. All right, Randy.
Yes, we have an airport. And it's doing great. Still, we've been really, really busy cutting grass and feeding people and hosting events. The traffic is increasing with the spring and summer coming on. Fuel cost has gone up slightly, but we're pumping more fuel. March, April, and May, it's been standard, but overall a little bit higher than last year and the year before because of COVID and then the rebound. Fuel cost is starting to rise on 100 low lead, but Jet A is staying constant, so we may be able to realize some savings on that. Other than that, the equipment is continuing to run. We've had some expenses to buy, to take care of the hangars and a few other things. But right now, I'd just like to say thank you to every volunteer, every board member, the commissioner, the family of the community that turned out Saturday to make this event the very best we have ever had. My hat's off to all of y'all. It took a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of blood, sweat, and some tears. But we got there, and we're already tentatively talking May of next year, so put it on your calendar.
Congratulations to the airport employees as well. Yeah, you guys did a great job getting the airport in much better shape appearance-wise. The event came off very well. I think there's opportunity to grow what we did this year and make it even better next year. So good job. I expect more next year.
Yes, more aircraft.
Just as a reserve, I was incredibly impressed with, I was expecting maybe a few people on a few airplanes at the groundbreaking. I was shocked.
In a good way, huh?
Yeah, I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. I said, I don't know who put it together, but an amazing job. Was this the first?
We've done a couple of smaller events before, but this is the first large event, and the team, Randy, Alexis, Stacy, and Lionel really put it all together. We had some volunteers help, we had some board members help, so, but the airport teams are the ones that put it all together.
Well, good. Excellent. We'll make this we'll be in competition with some other airports.
It's the first annual.
First annual?
Yeah.
Well, very good.
Thank you.
Any questions? I'm good.
Randy, you good?
I'm good.
Any comments on
Oh,
fuel
that's right.
cells or-
That's right. This is my last meeting. I want to announce my official retirement will be the last day I work at August the 11th of this year. So if you need me, call me to the 11th. This is it.
Congratulations.
It's been a 16-year run. It's been a growing that we started with 18 hangars, clogged up, grown over runway. We've gone through windsocks and lighting and hangars and 27 on one side and 18 on the other side. It's been nothing but growth in the last 15 years. And I feel it a privilege to not only be a resident of the county, lifelong born and raised, but how proud I am of the community and the support, the backing we've gotten, and the enlightenment that we're sharing with the community based on your going to the Rotary meetings and getting the word out, the progress, putting out articles as well to expand everyone's knowledge, because every penny you put into an airport brings you back in economic development. And I'm a firm believer in that. And I just want to say thank you all. It's been a great run. Turning the reins over to Alexis Walker. And she can put up with Stacy, so. Oh yeah, and Ed, I forgot. He's involved too. But thank you all so much. I really appreciate it.
Randy, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Randy, a lot of credit goes to you for what we have accomplished out there, and
We tried.
I know I sent Ed up there to the stage because I was, as Mary says, I was doing everything to avoid having to speak in public whatsoever Saturday, and I think I did a real
You
good
succeeded.
job.
Yeah.
That was my first job, was making sure Chris had to speak at the groundbreaking first, and so I did accomplish that very well Saturday,
Those were great.
but I do thank you for everything you've done.
I
Now,
appreciate it.
just to clarify, August 11th, but you are still gonna work
Just to clarify, August the 11th.
August 11th, but you are still gonna be
6
working
p.m.
some part-time, right?
If they'll have me, we'll see.
Okay, well, that'll be up to Alexis now.
I know. I
I
gotta
don't
put
know.
in for a job again. I don't know.
She's tough to work for.
I
and
can drive a
guess-
zero turn, I can tell you
She's only,
that.
she's only got one lawnmower, so.
And she may be getting some hazard pay having to work with Stacy, so.
Oh, this is true. That's true. Come back, Pete.
I'm
Randy,
supposed
congratulations.
to
Thank you,
find
sir.
You can't say anything since we're on film,
I'm
can
not
you?
saying
That's
that.
right.
Smile and nod.
But, yeah, all right. Airport engineer?
We've got great things going. Since our last meeting, so we have terminal site prep, which is, we have the terminal building. Terminal site prep is the parking lot, the road, stuff outside of the terminal area. It does involve knocking down the little hump of dirt where our tent was set up oddly on Saturday. So DOT, if you recall from, that was shared out, but since the last meeting, we spoke with DOT about the opportunity in there and some other things. They had some fallout money. The short version is we got $900,000 in money from them to help toward that project that's outside the terminal, in addition to what they're doing with the terminal. So that's tremendous. That grant's all signed and everything, along with the airfield electrical grant, which flips us to LEDs. What happens now is they do paperwork, we wait. When they're done with the paperwork, we can move forward with that, executing contracts and going. What we are guessing at, and what we shared, it was in the article that Max wrote, is that in that project, the only thing that relates to the building itself is clipping down the high ground to get the uniform, but then the building folks can start. So we're guessing that that's maybe by September 1st, that's clipped. September, then they will continue on with the rest of the project and the parking lot and all that stuff. So that ultimately will be we'll go into like Thanksgiving or something like that, roughly. But once they do that clipping on September 1st, then we'll be ready to have the terminal folks start, depending on their supply chain stuff and all that. And then in the meantime, there's some things we'll get with Don on schedule for next week. We'll meet with the county about the sewer line from the lift station up to the site, and then it works its way through some other hangars that are being built in Horseshoe. So that's great. The airfield electrical, to flip the LEDs, once we sign contracts, they have to order those materials. That takes roughly 4 months or something. So by the time we get that, order it, it may come in the winter that they'll be ready to do that. We will have knowledge of when they order, when the deliveries come in. So we'll be reporting on that. So it may be around the December meeting maybe that we say, hey, they have all their stuff ready to go. Then we have the freedom to talk about when they're up next to the runway. There'll be runway closures a little bit when that's going on, but we will talk about that and how we want to schedule it so that there's enough time to let all the tenants know when that's going to go on. So those are the big things that are happening. We also attended in late May, went to the AGA Airport Conference, Georgia Airport Conference in Augusta, and oddly enough, we were down there with DOT aviation people, and Rick Jaspers was down there, and we talked about thank you for the help with the electrical project and all that. And there was a door prize giveaway that we had donated that was an airfield light turned into a lamp, and he happened to win that. So he's been compensated for his support of our airfield electrical project. You can ask him about that. And to David TG's question, so that ramp, when we put in applications for projects each year, that's a project we put in. We will continue to put that in until that thing gets funded. But that one's a bit unique in that it's likely going to be 75-25 state project versus the FA project. As we go forward with these other things, like the light sort of safety thing, as that goes on. So we'll know, by the next meeting, we'll know what we asked for last November in the CIP, if that got funded or not, but we'll keep reporting. And then every year that project will continue to get put in until it gets funded.
So right now it's up in the air. It's one of the many that might.
Yeah, but, and so that arc is every year, that 5-year CIP, we turn it in November, that goes in, that typically has that project as well as others in it. And then you wait, and then Santa brings you, a pony or a Ferris wheel or whatever. And then, but that will continue to go in because in the overall, we've added new pavement, but in the overall redos of all the pavement, other than ultimately a runway rehab, that's the last piece of old pavement to have something done with.
Right.
So,
thank you.
Yep. And that's all. But, and again, we do a lot of those events. Like I said, we just did Calhoun, we just did Harris County, Callaway Gardens before that. And so we talked about how many folks were out there, and that's a chunk of folks. We have a little mental mathematical formula we do off of the little balsa wood gliders where you can calculate the crowd, and that was what we talked about with Don. That's probably 2,000 folks out there. That was a really big turnout, and A10s are not a normal thing to have at a fund. So that was just tremendous, and we're just we're happy to support. So that's what we got. Thank you.
All right. Any questions for Phil before we move on?
Somebody had mentioned, I saw it in an email somewhere about maybe the light, not light, but fencing maybe around
It is in the CIP as well, and if you remember, it's divided into 3 phases.
the fencing for the new weather station.
Oh, yeah,
For the what's
for the AWAS.
The AWAS station.
Yeah.
oh,
The AWAS fencing there, do you feel there's a need for fencing there, or have you seen some activity that bothered you?
The only thing is where it is, it's just kind of it's just right there. It's
is.
kind of a high traffic area.
There's, in the terminal project, there's some fencing that's included in that, but that's more decorative than,
Yeah.
it's a different type of fencing than you're talking
Yeah.
about here.
Yeah.
So
and you have, like we've talked about that before, back, kind of when we do CIP, sometimes we talk about that. So ultimately, you've got like the perimeter fencing, you've got that some decorative, because unlike the terminal now that sits up, you'll have a flat area that's just accesses out. So like that car parking, if somebody opened a car door and a kid ran out, like you have the decorative, so there's just some barrier to get out.
Yeah.
For the AWAS, if we ultimately want to do anything down there, it would need to be, one thing to keep in mind is that the AWAS has temperature sensors in it. So if you put metal fence too close to that thing, it'll throw off some of those sensors. We did talk about, as you get perimeter fencing, which will come in pieces with fixed amount of money, then we'll put in as much as we can, and then another phase we put in more. We had some talk about, at the entrance, you come in into that first entrance where you go into where the T-hanger area, kind of where that thing sits at the end of that. Ultimately, working toward having a gate or something over there so you control some of the access for.
We need a key card access there. We've had multiple vehicles coming through there that are not aircraft operators. And we've had near collisions with airplanes. It's an ongoing issue. We see people coming in from the other side as well onto the airfield. So we need to control that access. Otherwise, we're going to have a car run into an airplane at some point.
So you have, what you, in the talk of that before as that's come up is working toward a fencing. It's up to you to pick, like whether, as you start to go on the perimeter, some things for wildlife you put up, and then that thing is also for maybe a two-legged wildlife over there. But that part, that's a good one. We're here all week. That idea, because of the elevation change of the T's, you kind of have some little segment that goes in there. I think you had some four-wheelers that are coming. So the idea of some other stuff for wildlife. So you'll work toward that. When you do the CIP, you'll put that in, they'll put that in for that.
That makes sense.
Would an 8-foot high chain link, one of those dog run pre-assembled boxes, affect the AWAS sensors?
Yeah, we'd all things equal, if you can do that gate up there, so you're restricting that way. And then you can put some little barrier up at the end that's just, hey, don't run over the creek. This isn't open anymore like it used to be. Some kind of little barrier like that that doesn't retain heat. It's plastic or maybe reflective or
fencing
something.
probably right in front of the AWAS.
Yeah, with a maybe reflective or something. So somebody at night that comes in that, was last year, 3 years ago, and used to be able to go right through there. Something like that would be good.
They'll hit metal barriers now. If they try to cross, they'll hit metal barriers.
They'll hit that, right. They'll know it.
As long as one of those metal barriers isn't the AWAS.
Right. You can hit the old one now.
Put metal
there
barriers
you go.
there. So they can drive
It
their
could be a
vehicle.
fundraiser. Hit the old AWAS.
Put a 50-pound box in there, right?
Anything else for Phil?
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
All right, under old business, I just had that we needed to get into the minutes what we've done by email, and that is the getting Kevin Lohner and Richard Bias on the clock for the land lease. Those two, and y'all are both all aware of those two. So just need a motion to confirm those that we did by email.
So motion. Second.
All right, any discussion of those two? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any other new business?
We have additional interest in the West Taxiway land leases. And we will have paperwork on at least 2 that I know of within the next 30 days to start that process. So just an FYI that there is increased interest in that area. As we knew when we got things started, it would disappear pretty quickly. That's shaping up to be the case. If we wish to protect any space for larger type hangars, we probably need to appropriate that space and mark it as such on the drawings. Otherwise, we're going to lose control of that pretty quickly with the activity we're seeing. So we need to be thinking a little forward in protecting for a couple of large hangars.
Yeah. Along with that, Ed and I had actually a follow-up discussion today, and it has been in this discussion previous to today, but it was in his discussion with GDOT that as we're updating some of our operating procedures, there's probably some updates to our leases that we need to make, and that is a project that Alexis is actually going to be working on as well. So that is a project that we anticipate that we'll accomplish before the end of the year. Nothing major, just some minor wording. That has been a while since we've gone through that process, and it's time for us to do that.
It's going to be both the leases as well as the rules and regulations, if you will, for operation at the airport. Some of those things need to be tidied up. I don't think those have been touched in
A what?
at least 7 or 8 years. Since I've been on the
Yeah.
group here, we
So-
have not adjusted those, so it's time.
All right, anything? You just look like you want to
Alexis,
say
anything
something.
you want to add is, you'll be sitting up here next go around, so.
She loves that public speaking, by the way. She loves it.
I am awful at public speaking, as we have all witnessed. I will take care of all the operating procedures and send them to you.
Thank you.
That's all.
Stacy, anything? Sure. Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry I kept you so long.